Good afternoon. It's Sunday, the 5th of March. I'm Yael Shir, and this is IBA News, broadcasting live from Jerusalem. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu devoted much of today's weekly cabinet session to his pending Moscow trip this Thursday. Speaking at the beginning of the meeting, Netanyahu said he intends to reach an understanding with Russia in order to prevent Iran from establishing a permanent base of operations near Israel's northern border. The Prime Minister said he will raise the issue during talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. He added that he also plans to discuss the ongoing efforts to attain peace in Syria, as well as recent attempts by Syria to open up a second front against Israel in the Golan Heights. Netanyahu said he will express Israel's fierce opposition to the situation in the north and is hopeful that understandings will be reached to decrease possible friction between Israeli troops and Syrian forces. An official U.S. delegation, led by Congressman Ron DeSantis, is currently visiting Israel to examine the possibility of relocating the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. DeSantis is the chairman of the Subcommittee for National Security for the U.S. House Oversight Committee. During the two-day visit, which ends today, he will meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu, as well as other government officials, including Deputy Foreign Minister Tzipi Hotovely, who also plans to discuss the recent upsurge of anti-Semitic attacks against Jewish institutions and cemeteries. Palestinian and Jordanian leaders have warned against moving the embassy, saying it could have serious repercussions on the entire region. Iran has stated that its advanced S-300 air defense missile system, which it purchased from Russia, is now operational. The announcement came after a series of successful tests over the weekend, in which the system was deployed against various aerial targets. During the test run on Saturday, the S-300 system was deployed to track and destroy ballistic missiles. In addition, a simulation of electronic warfare countermeasures to test the missile defense system's ability to lock onto targets in difficult conditions was also examined. In 2007, Tehran signed a contract with Moscow to purchase the advanced missile defense system, but it was suspended 3 years later after the UN Security Council banned the sale of weapons to Iran. The sanctions were lifted last year after the Islamic Republic signed the historic nuclear agreement with 6 world powers. Security forces arrested a Palestinian suspect believed to have been involved in attacking a border police jeep in Nabi Salih in Samaria on Friday. The video clip posted on Arab media, which shows a mob attacking the vehicle without any response from security forces, has gone viral. A statement released by the border police said the clip had been tampered with and edited and does not reflect what really happened. It said the footage was shot during a military operation in the area that consisted of a number of units and that soldiers fired shots that dispersed the rioters. Yet the video posted on Arab media outlets shows a group of Palestinians, some of them masked, throwing stones and attacking the jeep, which was parked in the village. Some of the Palestinians were seen damaging the jeep's antenna, forcing one of the doors open, and throwing stones inside, without any response from border police in the vehicle. State Attorney Shai Nitzan announced today that an indictment against Moshe Arbiv, former head of the police National Fraud Squad, Lahav 433, was filed at the Rishon LeZion Magistrates Court. Arbiv is set to be charged on breach of trust and fraud. In January of 2016, former Attorney General Yehuda Weinstein issued a statement revealing Arbiv was suspected of having inappropriate relations with Rabbi Yoshiyahu Pinto, who recently completed serving a year's prison sentence for bribery. At the time, Weinstein claimed that Arbiv asked Pinto for personal favors, and Pinto offered him a monetary bribe. Arbiv refused the offer but failed to report the incident to the police investigators probing Pinto. The Haaretz newspaper has reported that Prime Minister Netanyahu tried to engage opposition leader MK Isaac Herzog in a regional peace initiative last September. The proposal was detailed in an 8-point text explaining Israel's goal of spurring a regional peace plan and anchoring a united government. The document was initially intended to be submitted at a peace summit in Cairo at the beginning of last October in the presence of Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and possibly Jordan's King Abdullah. Haaretz said the document reaffirmed Israel's commitment to both a two-state solution and direct negotiations with the Palestinians without preconditions. It also claimed that settlement activities in Judea and Samaria would be implemented in a manner that would facilitate a regional dialogue for peace, as well as effective security arrangements and reconstruction in Gaza. Several weeks after proposing the plan and after an agreement in principle was reached between Netanyahu and Herzog, the prime minister backtracked and contacts between the two sides collapsed. A report in the British newspaper The Mail today suggests former British Prime Minister and Middle East envoy Tony Blair hopes to become U.S. President Donald Trump's advisor to the Middle East. According to the report, Blair has been vying for the job and met with Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to discuss joining forces with the president. They have met 3 times since September, including an extended meeting at the White House last week. A spokesman for Blair refused to comment on private conversations. Former Defense Minister Moshe Yaalon announced yesterday that the time has come to pursue a new goal, form a new political party, and run for national leadership. Speaking at a cultural event in Tel Aviv, Yaalon said that while the future party has yet to be named, he has created an NGO called Alternative Leadership. Yaalon stressed that he decided to make the move because he cares about the country. The former defense minister added that he has not ruled out the possibility of joining forces with other parties in the future. Yaalon is not the only one vying for leadership of the country. Likud Party MK Avi Dichter, the former head of the Shin Bet security agency, has also revealed his plans to run for the party's leadership, even if it means running against Prime Minister Netanyahu. Speaking at an event in Modi'in yesterday, he addressed the police investigations against Netanyahu, saying anyone who claims they can function effectively while under investigation is not telling the truth. In other news, both Zionist Union MKs, Sheli Yachimovich and Eitan Kabel, are continuing to deny allegations that they struck a deal to support each other in upcoming races for leadership of the Histadrut Labor Federation, as well as the Zionist Union. This despite audio recordings, first exposed on Channel 2, in which they are heard discussing the issue. In the recordings, Yachimovich said she would back Kabel to lead the Zionist Union Party in return for his support when she runs for leadership of the Labor Federation. Current Histadrut chairman Avi Nissenkorn lashed out at Yachimovich and Kabel, accusing them both of lying. Nissenkorn charged that the two have turned the Histadrut into a political game and that the recordings prove they don't care about the workers of the Labor Federation. Police are investigating the desecration of yet another Jewish cemetery, this time in Brooklyn, New York. 5 tombstones were overturned at the historic Washington Cemetery in the Brooklyn neighborhood of Mapleton over the weekend. This is the 2nd incident in New York State over the past week and the 4th incident nationwide over the past 2 weeks. On Thursday, around 40 tombstones were toppled over in the Jewish cemetery of Rochester, New York, and the images of the deceased on over a dozen headstones were scratched away. The recent events are in addition to the desecration of 2 other Jewish cemeteries in Philadelphia and Missouri. The past month has also seen a wave of bomb threats directed at Jewish centers and institutions across the U.S. Last week, the FBI arrested a man in St. Louis who is suspected of making 8 bomb threats to Jewish community centers.
Hate towards the Jewish community and other minority groups is very real and deeply concerning. NYPD has seen a 115% increase in anti-Semitic hate crimes in the first 6 weeks of 2017 versus the first 6 weeks of 2016. There is a lot of work that still needs to be done.
There are those who have hate in their hearts based upon many, many different factors, but none of them are justified. And if we don't stand up and speak out, not only about the fact that any type of bias act is intolerable, but to also speak about the opposite side of how much this diversity brings to life's experiences, how much better it makes us as a people.
Commuters beware. Train service in the Tel Aviv district will be disrupted this week due to construction work carried out for the Tel Aviv light rail. As of midnight tonight until early morning next Sunday, the Tel Aviv Hashalom station will be completely shut down. All train lines running through the station will be stopped. During the digging operations, southbound trains from the north will make their last stop in Tel Aviv Haganah station, which will also serve as the starting point for all lines headed in the opposite direction. Those who need to use the Jerusalem-Herzliya line will have to travel to the Lod station to begin or end their journeys. The Tel Aviv municipality will operate free shuttle services between most of the city's train stations. British graffiti artist Banksy has opened up a new hotel in Bethlehem next to the Israeli separation wall. Called the Walled-Off Hotel, the 9-room facility is lined with Banksy art and interactive exhibits, and the piano lounge is decorated with security cameras. The project was created secretly over the past 14 months and opened up this weekend. The hotel, which is run by the local community, is located in close proximity to the 320-mile security wall along the border with the West Bank. Its owners claim that the hotel offers, quote, the worst view in the world. Although Israelis are forbidden from entering Palestinian Authority-controlled areas in the West Bank, including Bethlehem, the boutique hotel is located just outside the city in an area under Israeli military regulation. Most of its guests are expected to be tourists from abroad.
We started this project 14 months ago. It's almost 4 meters from the separation wall, surrounded by a wall from both sides, 2 sides. That's why it was called the Walled-Off Hotel. And as you see where we are standing, it has probably the worst view ever that you can get from a hotel.
Banksy chose the location for the hotel and developed the whole hotel as a concept. He chose to put it next to the wall, perhaps not for the great views, but for other reasons that are more artistic. And hopefully it will become kind of an interesting destination for people to come to and to learn about Palestine.
Turning to the field of innovation, the International Med in Israel Conference, which showcases medical devices and gadgets created in Israel, will be held next week. Some of the innovations include a device attached to a diaper, notifying parents when it's full, a home ultrasound device monitoring a baby's heartbeat called Compass, and an electrocardiography shirt, which records electrical heart activity using electrodes placed on the skin. Guests from all over the world are expected to attend. The conference is funded by the Export Institute in unity with the Ministry of Economy and Industry, as well as the Foreign Affairs and Health Ministries. Export Institute Chairman Ramzi Gabai has said, quote, the technologies of Israeli companies are deeply rooted in the academic institutions and are used in the best medical centers in the world. Well, it's Sunday, and in keeping with our weekly tradition, here are 5 good news stories that may give you a reason to smile. Israeli beekeeper Yael Farbstein of Kedumim won first place in the International Honey Tasting Contest, which was held in North Carolina. A 4,000-year-old dolmen inscribed with mysterious art was recently discovered next to Kibbutz Shamir in the Upper Galilee. Archaeologists say this is the first table-like stone structure ever documented in the Middle East. Israeli-Italian architect David Fisher has designed an 80-story rotating skyscraper in Dubai. The future tower, due for completion by 2020, will provide residents with the ability to rotate their rooms 360 degrees. Israel-based international humanitarian aid organization, IAID, announced it will be providing solar energy to a refugee camp in Iraq with the aim of helping some 350 families access electricity. And finally, some of the world's biggest names in the global television industry, including CNN, NBC, and HBO, have arrived in the country to take part in the annual InTV, Innovative Television Conference, which kicks off in Jerusalem this week. The event provides a stage for those shaping the present as well as the future of television. In finance, there was no change in the shekel, with currency markets closed for the weekend, as shares were mixed on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. Turning to the forecast, the IBA weather team says that tonight will be fair with easterly winds in the mountains. Tomorrow we can expect a slight rise in temperatures. Here's a look at the highs and lows for the next 24 hours at home and abroad. That's all for this newscast. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same channel. Until then, I'm Yael Shir, wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.